Last time we took a look at 5 things I love about Resident Evil 0, and now it's time we took a look at the biggest problems I have with the game itself. Like anything in life, it needs a balance. And that's very true, because the good things I talked about that RE0 has, they're fantastic. So it's only fair that the problems are the opposite of fantastic. Bad. Oh, that's the antonym of fantastic? Number 5, Stunlocks. Oh my god. Stunlocks can be good, especially if you have tank controls, but the ones in Resident Evil 0 last a little too long when it comes to some enemies, like the hunters and eliminators, the monkeys. It feels like I'm playing the very first version of the original Resident Evil 1, where it's basically game over if there are 2 zombies next to you because after one bites you, your character will go through his or her hit animation, but you'll be stun locked even after your character's hit animation is over, allowing for additional hits, which will basically rinse and repeat the process all over again. Number 4, no alternate endings or choices to alter your paths. One of the best things I always liked about the first Resident Evil game, both the original and remake version, is that they include multiple endings. Good, bad, great endings. I mean, this was for both playable characters. But Zero, even though it includes 2 playable characters, it only has one ending. Multiple endings is something that a good classic style Resident Evil game must include. I mean, think about it. If in Resident Evil 1 Rebecca can get killed off halfway through the game, imagine if there were multiple ways that led to an alternate ending like Rebecca dying halfway through the game because you failed to keep her alive through certain obstacles, and another alternate ending where Billy ends up dying halfway through the game instead. And once Rebecca bumps into Enrico, she actually joins him, and he ends up being your new partner for the rest of the game. And if Billy goes on his own in the version where Rebecca dies, just alter the puzzles up ahead that require a partner like the door that needs 2 people to turn a key at the same time. Just make that entrance already open with signs of being beyond repair, like if something broke through it. Number 3, not enough costumes for Billy. I like that you can switch through costumes freely since both characters are carrying a bag full of clothes in their inventory, I guess. At least for the remastered version of the game. And look at this. We have plenty of options for Rebecca. Each costume represents what it's from, which is awesome because I never thought I'd see a remastered version of Rebecca's exclusive cheerleader costume from Resident Evil Deadly Silence, the Nintendo DS port of RE1, my favorite version of RE1. And seeing all these costumes with an icon of where they derive from is so monumental. And in a way, it makes you feel proud to see how there are all these other RE games that each presented a unique costume, and maybe you'll be encouraged to try one of those titles out. I was also surprised to see that they included the costume she was originally meant to have, but she was only seen wearing it in the cancelled Nintendo 64 version and an unfinished cinematic cutscene of her first zombie encounter. And now, let's take a look at Billy's alternate costumes.
What the fuck are these?
At first glance, you'd think this was a joke, right? Rebecca has a large option of creative costumes, but Billy only has 3 different costumes? One looks cool, the other is this old school generic looking prison outfit, and this looks like a mix between a Saiyan armor because of the Scouter and G.I. Joe. Like, I'm all in for Rebecca getting all these sweet costumes, but you gotta show our man here the same amount of love. He could have gotten costumes that reference more characters from Capcom games. Think about it. I like that they gave him those kinds of costumes rather than just simply giving him outfits from other RE characters, like a STARS outfit or an RPD uniform. I think it was a great idea to give Billy costumes from other games like Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Mercs, an arcade game I've probably never played before. If you ask me, out of all the male characters in Street Fighter Alpha 3, why Cody's outfit? Billy's not exactly a prisoner. I mean, just because he's got handcuffs on one hand doesn't mean that he should have been wearing Cody's unappealing outfit. I would have chosen Vega's costume and allow the player to actually use his metal claws in place of the combat knife. Plus, it'd be great to see Billy wearing that mask as well. Anyways, they only gave him 2 costumes that are references to different games. It's not like they didn't have any other designs made for alternate costumes for Billy. Here's concept art of other designs they had in mind. All they had to do was choose 1 or 2 of these. That's it. But if I could suggest certain costumes, I'd say include Dante's outfit from Devil May Cry, Strider's outfit from the Strider games, preferably his Marvel vs. Capcom version. I think a Strider outfit should be included since Chris got his own exclusive ninja costume in Resident Evil DS, so this could be like a reference to that. A third choice would be Jean Reno's character outfit from Onimusha 3. Recently, I just started playing the Onimusha series, and even though I haven't played the third game yet, I think Jean Reno's character costume design looks badass. Bailey sure as hell could pull it off. Every other character outfits I've seen in Onimusha would probably be too bulky or covered in armor plates or just another ninja or samurai-like appearance, so this costume would likely be the better choice. But of course, he only got 3 alternate costumes while Rebecca has 13 costumes in total. Because if you may not have noticed, they even included an extra tab with additional costumes. It's more like the same outfit with different t-shirts though, but additional costumes nonetheless. Sorry, Billy. You don't get a single t-shirt. Missed opportunity for a t-shirt that includes a Toon Chris punching a boulder. Number 2. Just a giant insect or rodent. I hate every boss fight in the game. They're either too damn easy or too damn annoying. Stunlocks are one thing, but that giant bat with regular sized bats is one giant clusterfuck. I don't get how the developers looked at the bosses from RE1, looked back at RE0 and said, forget about creative experiments as boss fights, let's just make them all giant versions of rodents and insects. Let's take a moment to revisit the cancelled creatures of Resident Evil 0 and see the examples I only wish we had as enemy types for this game. The original Eliminators, better known as Wesker's Monster. If you compare both the concept version and the in-game version, you gotta go with the original concept design, because if it's gonna be an infected monkey, it's gotta look like it's an experimentation. You gotta make it look like it's got mutations or something that didn't go well. You can't just throw in some cuts and bruises or scratches here and call it a day. Wesker's monster looks like a mix between a chimp, a human, and a bat. I would have liked to have seen more concept art for this creature to see if there was going to be something specific or unique about its attacks. Or its tail. It almost looks like it has a stinger on its tip. But since it looks quite large, then I can only assume that it's not the size of Yoda and it wouldn't be bouncing up the walls and shit. Because trust me, the Eliminators we got in the game, they're some of... No. They're the worst creatures in the game. I swear there are moments when I even pumped shotgun shells and even magnum shots on the same bloody monkey. And it kept getting up. Oh my god. Come on, dude, stay down. What? What the hell? Stay down, dude? Oh my god. What the fuck? How?
Why, Mr. Anderson? Why? Why do you persist?
Why the fuck does this thing refuse to die? Look at this shit. Come on, dude. So yeah, they're the worst. By far the worst. The Dolly. The Dolly, which stands for DNA Lack of Intelligence Creature, was in my opinion a creative-ass enemy type that deserved to be in Resident Evil 0. Its appearance was unique and terrifying, something that should have been welcomed with open arms for a Resident Evil game. But the thing that really bugs the hell out of me are the reasons why this creature was cancelled. Because the creators thought that it seemed out of place. Its nature was hard to grasp. But most importantly, they thought the player would have a hard time taking it down since its first form would appear on the ceiling. We're talking about Resident Evil 0 here, right? They already included the giant spiders that can crawl on the ceiling and attack you from there. What difference would this make? Those weren't really a problem at all. It was fun taking them down. I never had a problem aiming up. The real problem was with the Stunlock, but almost always with the hunters and the monkeys. I just don't understand how they thought that these annoying ass monkeys should be given the A-OK, but all these vastly greater enemy types that would have drastically improved the experience of the game just feel out of place? Nobody was looking for a giant version of a regular looking insect or rodent. Now you might think that, well, the giant spiders contradict what I'm saying here. And yeah, that's definitely true. But spiders have always been scary. They've always been creepy looking, right? I mean, come on. There's something about an arachnid's appearance that scares the hell out of people. So spiders don't need alterations to look scary. But everything else sure as hell does. Next is the spider-human hybrid. I've mentioned before that if this particular enemy type existed in the game, that it should look like an ordinary zombie, but after getting shot once, it then reveals that it's a spider hybrid and immediately leaps onto the character, inflicting poison on them. It would have also been visually creepy if we saw spider legs coming out of the zombie's arms and legs, but even creepier seeing it crawling on the ceiling and walls, especially if the zombie head keeps turning its head back and forth, appearing as if the zombie is trying to fight back from being fully controlled by the spider inside him. I would have been okay with giant insects, by the way, but rodents as well maybe, but only if they had alterations made to their designs. They need to show signs of a mutation besides being giant. The only bosses that aren't giant insects or a rodent is a proto-tyrant and James Marcus himself. They are the only two that have a creative design, but the way they're both handled is weak. When the proto-tyrant shows up, it's out of nowhere. Makes you wonder why it's even there. Why didn't Wesker mention anything about the proto-tyrant on the loose? Especially if the Tyrant Project was his obsession. But the biggest problem I have with RE0 is... Number 1. The story and main antagonist. James Marcus could have been another great antagonist of the series. He could have been an ally of Birkin and Wesker's. All three of them, they had the same passion for creating a deadly virus. Surely they would have gotten along easily. Wesker and Birkin did. Marcus trying to show off his experiments to Wesker and Birkin by setting traps for their intruders would have been something. It would have been an interesting thing to see them, interacting after each failed attempt, maybe. Or not even every attempt could be a failure. It could result in Edward Dewey's death, maybe even Forrest Spayer's death. He could be the one that took them down. That way he doesn't look like a complete failure and everyone can actually take him as a serious threat. Especially if by the end he tells Birkin and Wesker that he's going to fuse himself with his biggest creation, turning himself into that human leech monster by the end. And after he fails, we get a final cutscene of Birkin's expression, how he actually admired Marcus for what he did in the end, fusing himself with his own creation, a deadly move to prove how far that he was willing to go with his own work. But instead, he's this old guy who was betrayed by Umbrella. Yeah, like, we haven't heard that one before.
It was I who scattered the T-virus in the mansion. Needless to say, I contaminated the train too.
What?
Revenge on Umbrella.
But it's much worse here because James Marcus has this leech power and the ability to turn himself young again. It just allows him to control hordes of leeches. I don't know if they thought about this through. He does this by singing like an opera singer. Why? Well, who knows? We don't know enough about him, and he has these powers which are too ridiculous since it's too early into the series where it at least tried to make things sound believable with Umbrella's experiments.
It just doesn't make sense.
There are too many questions when it comes to James Marcus. They should have really just kept him grounded and tried to deliver with a new antagonist that doesn't break the believability in its own realm of reality. What if Wesker was instead working with Marcus and he wasn't an old man and he wore something more appropriate like a suit rather than that church robe, whatever that was? And like I said before, have him interact with Birkin and Wesker, each discussing how they intend on making their arrangements and plans go accordingly. And in the end, they decide to let Marcus deal with their current intruders while they continue with their plans. Well, there you have it. It's a doozy of a game. Has its ups and downs, but like that scale puzzle in the game, it's all part of balancing things out. Maybe next time we can talk about the 5 things I love and hate about the remake of RE1. Or something. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.